not get distracted.
No, just to get like just to like slowly welcome people in,
Okay.
and then once I give you a thumbs up, then you'll be all right. Now you guys can start, and then I'll hit the record button.
While he's doing that, tomorrow before I go to the con, I have the Elden Ring Night Rain beta happening tomorrow. It's going on this weekend.
Nice.
Cause so at least since I don't have to go in so early tomorrow to animate, I'll at least get a little bit of the morning just to see it, just for a bit. Because then I'll play more of it on Sunday.
True that. Just whenever you're ready, Senpai, to give me the green light. I'm sure people can already hear us or hear me. Hey, everybody. Mm.
It's live. Yeah, I can see it's live. Yeah, I see there's like lurking. Yeah, it's like a little bit of
Hey,
delay
everybody
from like
out
when you
there
actually
in
talk.
TV land, welcome to the very first episode, numero uno of Press F to Start podcast, presented by Flynn's Arcade and More here in Margate, Florida. We're super stoked to start this new venture, this new course, this new path with all you beautiful people. And for everybody tuning in wherever you get your podcast, we're so thankful that you've joined us. Well, Press F to Start is all about the latest and greatest gaming news, including things like the state of play with PlayStation that just happened. And we are going to be your go-to source for those little tidbits, nuggets of gold for you to take on your way wherever you're listening or watching in the gaming world, gaming news. Basically, we're reading, digesting, taking in all the information to give you what we found out. So we're super stoked that you joined us for episode 1. There can only be one episode 1, so let's see how this goes. And also, we are part of the Uncensored Nerds Network. That includes podcasts such as Comic Con Podcast, We Got Issues Podcast, Plot Hole Pro, Beyond the Cape. So be sure to check out the Uncensored Nerds Network on Instagram. And you can find us, Flynn's Arcade and More, here in Margate, Florida, in beautiful Margate, Florida, a.k.a. Broward County. Or if you're unfamiliar with Florida, that's about, 25 minutes west of Fort Lauderdale, and also about, 30 minutes north of Miami. So if you're able to check us out, by all means, come by anytime you want at Flynn's Arcade and More here in Margate, Florida. All the games are set to free play. We got everything from Pac-Man to Galaga to Mortal Kombat to everything. And it's just $15 unlimited. Come and go as you please. And of course, we have our hobby shop as well, Flynn's Hobby Shop, where you can enjoy whatever hobby you're into, D&D, Warhammer, Gundam, whatever. So if you're in the area, by all means, swing on by. You can find us on Instagram at Flynn's Gaming FL, and across most platforms at Flynn's Gaming FL or Flynn's Gaming, or you could Google Flynn's Arcade and More. But enough about that, guys. We're super stoked to start Press F to Start podcast, but it wouldn't be what it's going to be without my awesome, totally amazing co-host, the one, the only, Jake James Lugo. Hey, Jake, how you doing tonight?
Hey, what up, Eddie? Good evening, I should say, at this point, because we're recording mad late, but it's good to be here. It's good to chat with you as always. It's good to hang around.
Totally, man. And if you're watching this or listening to this at a later time frame, you can find all of us across social media platforms. And Jake, where can they find you if they want to dig a little deeper into what you got going on?
You could find me literally everywhere at Jake James Lugo, whether you're on Twitter/X, whether you're on TikTok, whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on Threads or Blue Sky or even Facebook, all over the place. I'm at Jake James Lugo on every platform, including YouTube as well, posting up content all over the place every single day about games, movies, TV, pop culture, Star Wars, and everything else that we like to talk about and people like to hear about.
And that's the whole point of Press F to Start podcast. We're going to be giving you those tidbits, those nuggets, those things you may want to pay attention to if you're into gaming and gaming news, gaming relevant news, like maybe there's a movie about a particular video game or arcade game or something like that. We're going to dig into that, or an indie game, or all sorts of that cool stuff. Now, I figured since episode 1 is kind of like the preface of like what this is all about, I wanted to let you guys know a little bit about what Flynn's Arcade is and where we started. So my name's Eddie, aka the Bearded One, as I'm known here. If you see me around conventions, I'm usually wearing a red fez hat. I'm easy to spot. But Flynn's Arcade was created in 2019. We opened our doors December 7th, and it's been a wild ride since then. Yes, we did open right before COVID, and had I known COVID was around the corner, I probably wouldn't have done that. But
the timing was a little goofy.
Yeah, we can't predict the future, so it happens. But I still remember adamantly opening night, December 7th. Jake, you were there.
I was there.
You're one of the
I was there. I covered it. I have a video on my YouTube channel of that night.
Yeah.
I believe that I did. I covered your guys' your opening, and I think I covered your guys almost just about every single anniversary that you guys have been open every single year.
Oh, totally, man. And the cool thing is to see where our community has gone and grown. And so we are totally awesome. It's totally awesome, and we're super blessed that we're able to add another component to our community, Press F to Start podcast. So it's been a wild ride with Flynn's Arcade. I'm sure as we develop these episodes, we'll dig deeper into more and more details about what Flynn's is. But here we're all into, arcade games and video games and all that nerd culture. But Jake, just tell the people a little bit about your background, what you got going on, and, I don't know, like, you've done a lot, bro. So, like, just dig into it.
So pretty much for anybody that doesn't know me already, I'm Jake James Lugo. I'm a content creator / writer / podcaster, and someone who's just been involved with video games for pretty much my entire life, up to this point, over 30-something years. Now, I've been professionally writing about and talking about video games for over 15. As of this past January 2025, I've hit over the 15-year mark for actually freelancing, writing about, talking about, making videos about, making short videos about on YouTube and TikTok about video games and about pop culture, entertainment, and different stuff related to it. One of my favorite things on top of that is Star Wars, so it all gets into the mix of stuff. But I've done content for a variety of different places, including outlets you might have heard about if you're listening to this now, including IGN, including Playboy, The Coalition, Red Bull Gaming, Dot Esports, The Outer Haven, and you even heard me in other places as well, not just YouTube and TikTok, but you probably also heard me on BBC Radio, where I've been able to talk about video games over on the BBC's airwaves, all the way in the UK across the pond. So it's been pretty fun to do so, but the bottom line is, with someone like me, I just love talking about games. I love being part of the conversations and just the overall discussions about games and the games industry, about entertainment, about pop culture, movies, TV, and the stuff that we love to engage with, we love to have fun with, and everything else that comes with that.
Oh, yeah, man, totally, bro. And when I go to think about what you've done in terms of like what you've written blog entries for us and information for our website as well at flynsgaming.com, and all the stuff you've done, like you said, with IGN and all the other networks. I mean, you have a track record, and that's why I'm so stoked, man, when we are presented to this idea of starting a podcast and really diving into video game, arcade game, news, pop culture as it relates to video games. I just thought of you instantly. I'm like, you know what? Who would be a great person? Jake would. So
the best person possible.
So we decided we were going to move in that direction. So super stoked to see where we are about to head, guys. So strap in. If you're on the road, lean back. Obviously, eyes on the road as we dive into the first episode here of Press F to Start. Now, we have a lot of topics to cover this evening or wherever you're watching this. Jake, let's just start straight out of the gate, man. We were talking about this earlier, the PlayStation State of Play, right?
Yeah.
Just break it down. Like, imagine I know nothing about the State of Play. What should I expect? Like, or what happened? What's important? What went down? Why should I care?
So basically, the State of Play for PlayStation is pretty much just like a short video presentation. Usually, or in this case, it was about 40 minutes, but sometimes it's more or less. They basically just go through a bunch of trailers or quick announcements about the upcoming games within the slate of PlayStation games. That includes third-party, first-party games, whatever you're going to be playing on your PlayStation 5 currently at the moment, whatever you're going to be playing on PlayStation accessories like PSVR, if not also on PC related to Sony Entertainment Studios, or anything else related to PlayStation you're going to find on the State of Play. play. It's not going to be every game that might be coming out, but it'll be a bunch of stuff, maybe a few surprises here and there that you'll hear about. With this one that we just passed, we got a bunch of combination of third-party games, a couple of first-party stuff, some announcements. Not a lot of gameplay from the first-party announcements because they're big games still in development, but we did get a bunch of gameplay showcases from various games, both third-party AAA as well as also independent games, which is pretty nice.
Well, when you say, like, let's say I'm new to the gaming world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we all talk in a certain vernacular. When you say you said AAA, right? I believe that was the
Yeah.
term used. What do you mean by AAA game?
AAA means big budget release. So any game that comes from like a big publisher or studio that's making and developing a game that's putting a lot of money behind it and also mass releasing it on consoles, in this case being PlayStation, or obviously third parties, studios that are not the PlayStation themselves releasing their games on the PlayStation 5 or going to the Xbox Series X or going to the Nintendo Switch or even on PC. That's what AAA really means. It means the big budget, like the Hollywood Studios version of a game developer.
All right, right on. That makes a lot of sense. I know at the State of Play, they showed a lot of trailers, like you said, and they gave us some release dates. But let's start on the trailers first. Now, what trailer really piqued your interest, especially with all your experience in the gaming news arena? What trailer really spoke to you?
There's a couple that I've been excited about. Obviously, I'm excited about the new Metal Gear Solid Delta, which is a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Pretty much the exact same game, but it's up-res. It's got better presentation, better visuals, very cleaned up just models of characters. From a PlayStation 2 game to what looks like now a fully fledged PlayStation 5 release game, which is nice. It's just a remake of a classic game that people really love. And it'll be interesting to see if that game, when it eventually comes out later in the year, if it does very well, because we might get more remakes like this. Imagine seeing a Metal Gear Solid 1 or a Metal Gear Solid 2 remake, just done in this style. That'd be pretty cool. But arguably, they went with the best game to start this type of stuff off with Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, because it's the earliest game in the timeline, of the Metal Gear franchise, that it's a gargantuan thing. It's too crazy. But that was one of the first trailers I thought was pretty cool. Obviously, the other one for me, being a big Onimusha fan, Onimusha Way of the Sword, if you're into Capcom games, survival horror, or a little bit of just classic Capcom games, a brand new Onimusha game that we haven't gotten in so long, that's not only getting a brand new character, but it's also just, again, a beautiful presentation on a PlayStation 5 that takes the same type of approach that what we got with the Resident Evil remakes, like Resident Evil 2 remake, Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil 4 remake, that has awesome detailed visuals in a brand new horrifying adventure.
Now, with that Onimusha, the Way of the Sword, I know we talked about, or I read about it being released in 2026, right?
Yeah.
So they showcased the trailer. They introduced a new protagonist, right? The historic
Miyamoto Musashi is the protagonist's name
in this particular game. And I agree with you, man. It's going to be a wild ride to see this game released. It's going to be a lot of fun. And a comment on the Metal Gear remakes, or not remastered.
Metal Gear Solid Delta.
Yeah. It would be absolutely amazing to see Metal Gear Solid 1 done that way. But
that'd be sweet. Yeah.
It would be really sweet. It'd be really unique. I don't know for those listening if you played Metal Gear Solid, the first one, but that is the first game I officially beat on my little PlayStation 19-inch monitor, CRT monitor in the room, and I was super stoked about that. So, any other trailers spoke to you during the State of Play for PlayStation?
I hope I'm pronouncing this right, but there was also the Housemarque game at the very end that didn't show gameplay, but it was an announcement trailer. I think it's called Sasora, or Sasora.
Sasoros, yeah, Saros.
Yeah, Sasoro, Sasoro, something like that. But basically, that's almost like a pseudo sequel to a game called Returnal that Housemarque made a while back, which was one of the first big PlayStation 5 games. They're a studio that, again, they do a lot of PlayStation games, much more arcade style games, where it's really about shooting gameplay, fast paced action, stuff that's really has a lot of momentum to it, with a little bit of flair with some of the visuals and plot and story stuff. But this one, it's an original story, original IP, according to them, but it's a spiritual successor or a spiritual sequel to the Returnal game.
And I was reading here, there will be a permanent progression systems, and every death reshapes the world while offering new upgrades to overcome challenges. What did you take away from that for that specific game? What does that mean to you as being someone
Well,
with this
what that
experience.
means specifically, like if we're talking about like games themselves,
Right.
that means roguelike to me. So basically what Returnal was a roguelike shooter
Okay.
that had like these very crazy sci-fi elements to them. If you've never played it on PlayStation 5, it's one of the more interesting games to come from a first party for a PS5 because again, it just remixes stages or areas that you traverse. And the idea is that you have to make it to the end of like this gauntlet of like stages and stuff.
Right.
But every time you die, it restarts from the very beginning, but things change in the actual level. That's what a roguelike is.
Okay.
Most games that are roguelikes have very similar approaches to them, where again, it's the challenge of trying to get through everything, but every time that you die, you kind of redo things over again, but you get stronger as you discover new elements, new to the gameplay, new weapons and new abilities to help get you a little bit further each time.
That's pretty dope, man. I mean, for anybody out there who wants to play a roguelike game now, what could you recommend to them?
I could recommend Rogue Legacy. I could recommend Hades. I could recommend oh my god, I'm trying to think of this indie game that I know for a while because there's so many of them. Because roguelikes, again, as a genre, or at least an aspect of a genre, is really fun. And you see a lot of indie games make games that are very similar to that, or indie developers, I should say, that they take similar approaches to that because there's a lot of replayability that comes with them, and people get a lot of value out of that.
Very cool, man. I mean, I agree 100%. And I really appreciate you giving those potential options for people to pick up because that's what it's all about here on the podcast. It's about giving you maybe a game you haven't thought of, introducing you to an indie developer game or whatever the case may be that you might be interested in. Now, on the State of Play, they spoke about a release date being confirmed for Borderlands 4, right?
Yeah,
And
I
I'm look,
believe that's in the summer, if I'm not mistaken, or sometime around the summer. I could be wrong.
yeah, I'm reading here. It's actually after the summer. I'm reading here. It's officially going to be released. Borderlands 4, September 23rd,
September. Okay,
2025.
gotcha.
Now,
Okay, so fall.
with Gearbox sharing this brand new gameplay trailer, they talk about it giving another look at a much anticipated sequel, and then the Borderlands 4. I mean, what are your thoughts about? I mean, this is the fourth rendition, obviously, of Borderlands, right?
But it's not the fourth game, but like it's the fourth fourth numbered sequel
Yeah,
because there's been a many Borderlands games. Like we've had Tales of the Borderlands, we've got all the Borderlands like games themselves. Like there's been a lot.
So what do you think? Like, do you think? I'm just thinking since it's video game related. You know, you had the movie, right?
Yeah, the movie was not good.
Yeah,
I could just tell you right off the bat, not good.
you had the movie, right?
Borderlands fans were not happy about that.
Okay, so you had the movie, and then at the State of Play, they talk about, hey, listen, look at Borderlands 4. We're releasing a date for this. They showed some gameplay. Do you think that the movie and its impact will negatively affect the Borderlands 4 reception from the gamers?
No,
Okay.
because I think a lot of Borderlands fans are competent enough and smart enough to know that, like, yeah, that movie really wasn't it. But they know Borderlands, the series, they played the game. So they're pretty happy about Borderlands 4 coming out. Me personally, I'm just indifferent about it because I'm not a big Borderlands guy,
Right.
but I respect it. I mean, it's one of those series that really kind of, coined the phrase looter shooter as far as like, which you see a lot from like Destiny 2 and many other games, that focus on that style of FPS. But it's just fun to see people excited about it. But we'll see when it comes out because they showed gameplay with it and that's fine, but we got to see more. And eventually it's coming out this year, so we'll know what's up soon enough.
All right, no, I agree with you. Along with the State of Play, Sony announced PlayStation Plus game catalog for February 2025.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing here the State of Play revealed that February's PlayStation Plus game catalog editions will feature, and straight out of the gate, man, they say Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Yep.
Straight out of
Yep.
the gate. Now, I know you're a huge Star Wars fan. If you guys have not, if you want to dig into some of the most deepest videos about Star Wars video games, head on over to Jake James Lugo's YouTube channel. He does a phenomenal job. I put it on in the background. I listen to it as if it's a podcast just to get my little dose of Star Wars. And since you're listening to us here wherever you get your podcast from, go in and check out Jake James Lugo's stuff and videos about Star Wars. But nonetheless, Star Wars Jedi Survivor being added to the PlayStation Plus catalog. Thoughts, Jake? What
That's fine. I mean, we not that long ago also got it on Xbox Game Pass. That
Okay.
Jedi Survivor got put up on there. All the Star Wars games from EA are up on Xbox Game Pass. I don't think all of the Star Wars games from EA are up on the PlayStation Plus catalog for PlayStation 5. I know there's a bunch of other Star Wars games that you could find on there on the PS Plus catalog and the Classics catalog that are Star Wars related that are different from Xbox Game Pass. But this is a nice addition. If you get PlayStation Plus Premium, you have some options to play through some of these games. If you don't want to go out and find them for full price, or you just can't find them at the moment, you just don't want to pay as much off of PSN, you have options there to play all these games, which is pretty neat, which is pretty cool.
Now, let's say someone's listening for their first time here. Welcome. And they don't have any clue as to Game Pass or PlayStation Plus. Explain it to us. Break it down
Sure.
to help us
Think of
understand.
it like this. Play Game Pass. Xbox Game Pass is pretty much like what Netflix is for movies, where you pay a subscription fee and you're able to download and play multiple games that they have available, and it cycles out certain games periodically at various different times. PlayStation Plus is pretty much the same thing. When you get PlayStation Plus Premium, they have different tiers for all the services, so you get different types of offers for them and such. With PlayStation Plus Premium, it's a little bit different because you also get what's called the Classics catalog, which is older PlayStation releases from like PlayStation 1, 2, 3, etc. up till now. And you get a bunch of different games that they offer every once in a while with trophy support. If you're playing through your games on PlayStation 5, you get trophies. Same thing with Xbox Series X or Xbox Series S. You're playing and getting achievements and stuff. You get a lot of those different things between the two services, but it's a good way for someone to save money and play a variety of games per month, especially if you don't know exactly what your tastes are, if you especially just like the idea of exploring around what different types of games are out there.
Okay. And since you have used these services before,
Mhm.
any recommendations for a listener out there who may be considering one over the other, or something to look out that you wish you would have known before you started using these services? Anything at all?
What I will say is that depending on the console you have is the service that you get. Now, if you have both Xbox Series X and you have PlayStation Plus, I would say Xbox Series X is the better value because you're probably going to get more games cycled out per month. If you got both consoles and you don't want to pay an arm and a leg for all the services and not be able to use it all like within a given month for whatever reason, you'll probably get more out of the Xbox Game Pass because there's more offerings that change up that are newer games compared to PlayStation Plus Premium, which has newer games, but they also have a lot more classic games in comparison. But it really depends on one's taste and what's, one's situation is.
Yeah, kind of like here at the arcade. We have a little bit of everything from the retro games like Pac-Man and Galaga all the way up to the modern stuff, or semi-modern stuff like Dance Dance Revolution or Initial D. So a different taste for everybody. 100% agree with that. Now,
Definitely.
at the State of Play, they also gave us a first look at the Sonic Racing Cross Worlds gameplay. Um,
Mhm.
with all the racers going on in today's world, you know what I'm saying? We had a Crash One, Mario Kart, obviously, and all that kind of stuff. When you initially saw this and they introduced it, what were your initial thoughts when it came to this particular game?
It's okay. It's not nothing to cry home about. It's not the same type of hype or vibe that I got from Sonic All-Star Racing Transformed, which really featured more than just Sonic because it was really a celebration of Sega.
Yeah.
Everything that's Sega. So you had like other franchises there like Shinobi, Golden Axe, Burning Rangers, etc. But with this one, it's much more held back with much more specifically Sonic stuff. At least that's the vibe that I got from when I saw the trailer. Could be different, could change up. Who knows at this point? Sega's going through some things right now where they're kind of like really testing the waters with some of their classic franchises, which we'll probably get to that they showed during the show. But I was indifferent about it. We got to see more gameplay, like actual gameplay, straight up, because I know there's been some previews going around from different places like IGN and a few others where they actually got to check out the game. But we'll see what's up with it eventually when it comes out.
Yeah, when I was watching the trailer with Sonic Racing in particular, and they talked about that portals element where you could like teleport into a different
Like a
world
different stage or different area.
instantly. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of
It's
interesting.
like Ratchet and Clank's Rift Apart. It's almost the exact same type of thing, just in a racing context.
Yeah, exactly. And whenever I'll be honest, Jake, when I see games being released attached to franchises that have had heavy hitter movies, I'm always asking myself, like, are they doing this just to capitalize on the notoriety of the particular characters? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Are they doing it for a money grab? Is it really gonna, what's gonna
No, I
happen
don't
with
think
it?
so. I think because Sega always releases a lot of Sonic games, like
Okay.
over a much shorter period of time compared to other places. Like it does take a while to develop games, but there's a lot of Sonic games out there. And I think because it's their mascot, so Sonic is their biggest mascot, for their company, period. It makes sense, especially now that we also know at some point we're probably going to get a new Mario Kart
Right.
with the brand new Nintendo Switch
Yep.
2.
Yep.
But it's stuff like this you like to see because at least they care about the character and they care about the fan base that cares about that character. So
Yeah.
there's more stuff for you to get excited
And
about.
I know you're very passionate about Sega because if I remember correctly, wasn't the Sega Genesis like the first console you started with?
Well, two things. Number one, yes, Sega Genesis was my first video game console, and also Sonic was my first game that I ever played. But also, I was born in the year that the Sega Genesis came into the United States. I was born the same year that the Sega Genesis was created,
Okay.
for the most part. So that I have a very big connection or deep personal connection to Sega in a lot of ways. And funny enough, because I'm pretty sure you might know, but I don't know if everybody else knows. I'm the first person you see in the Sonic or the Sega Genesis Classic commercial. I'm the first person you see that says Sega.
Really? I have
Yeah,
to go
it's
back
on
and watch
YouTube. If
it.
you ever get a chance, go look it up on YouTube. I'm in that commercial. I'm the first person you see.
Holy moly, dude. All right, cool. Well, hey, we're waiting to see what comes with the Sonic Racing game. Now, for all you wrestling fans out there, speaking of wrestling, here, guys, whenever you're listening to this, we're actually having the one, the only Rikishi come
Yeah.
and join us here at the arcade at Flynn's Arcade and More at Margate, Florida. Rikishi's going to be with us on February 21st, which is not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow. Well, depending on when you're listening to this, it's February 21st here at the arcade from 6:30 to 9:30. It's a special meet and greet. But talking about wrestling, I know during the State of Play, they hit up the WWE 2K25 spotlights.
Yeah, that was weird.
The multiplayer wrestling hub, the island.
Yeah, that was weird. Like it's an island, and they're really playing up the kind of fantasy aspect or the cheesy aspect
Right.
of wrestling with
Right.
it. Like your tribal chief is gonna have his own like mountain freak on there, which is wild. The Undertaker's gonna have his own little like I guess you could say cathedral. I don't know what that was, but it was weird. If you're a wrestling fan, there's a fun factor to this, and this is going to be right up your alley, and it'd be a little different. It's going to kind of remind me of the Street Fighter 6 like battle hobby
Yes.
or
Yeah.
battle
Yeah.
lobby
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
battle hub
Yeah. That's
or Tekken battle lobby
Yep.
in a sense, or like an area you could just explore because maybe they'll have more than just multiplayer stuff. They'll probably have other things probably related to single player, but we'll see what happens. But it's a wild idea for 2K25.
Whenever, whenever I see multiplayer wrestling, I just think of like all the wrestlers coming in at one time and just like beating up on each other the entire like it's
Like a
a
Royal
constant,
Rumble.
yeah, Royal Rumble. It's a constant state of chaos, like the
Yep.
entire time.
Yeah, there's a lot of flair and there's a lot of showmanship with this thing here.
But I love to see that they're having fun with wrestling. They're having fun with this idea. I'm with you. Also, I want to see what it looks like when it's said and done. The challenges with it. I want to see how players receive it. So if you're into wrestling and you didn't check out the State of Play, well, thanks for checking out. Press F to start because here we are talking about WWE 2K25, specifically focusing on the wrestling hub, the island. So it's going to be interesting to see. Next thing coming down the pipe, we saw here, I have here, The Art of Vengeance. The official announcement trailer was presented, and it's due to release, I believe, August 29th, 2025. Now, with the start of Vengeance, when you saw this particular trailer announcement, what were your initial thoughts, bro?
I think it was fine. Again, a lot of games that showed up during this play to play, I was very indifferent about because some of them look cool, some of them look interesting, but not every game is something that one is going to connect with. Like this is one of them, which I think is fine because there's a couple other games in there that also I think look fine that I'm much more interested in. Like for example, one game that I was interested in was Tides of Annihilation.
Yep.
That's like to me. Again, games look good. They look fast paced. They look like they got a lot of action and stuff. But again, every game's going to hit different, especially during a state of play when you're getting bombarded with like 20 games that they're showing on there or that they're announcing and saying that's got release dates. There's bound to be a few that are just like, oh, that's cool. Don't hate it. Don't mind it.
Yeah, with the State of Play, like I agree 100% with you. If you guys take the moment to watch the State of Play, like Jake said, you're going to get bombarded with a lot of different trailers and a lot of different games being thrown at you. And I've always felt, honestly, just when it comes to gaming in general, just focus on something that you enjoy.
Now hold on a second. I want to make sure that it's clear there because I'm looking at the list as well. That's Shinobi Art of Vengeance, right? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Shinobi. Okay, so Shinobi's Art of Vengeance is one of the games that I actually like. Okay,
Okay.
I confused it with a different game.
No worries.
Shinobi Art of Vengeance is a classic Shinobi game.
Correct.
That's Sega's releasing. Okay, that's dope. That looks really cool. That's being done by some of the same people who did Streets of Rage 4, which is cool because the artwork for it looks amazing. Okay, and what's sick about that is that we have both Ninja Gaiden and Shinobi releasing classic versions of their franchises in the same year. And probably, I think, it like months apart, even like very close.
Yeah, because one is I think September, one's August, I think, or
It's,
something like
they're
that.
very close like
Very
that because Shinobi is being done by Way Forward,
Yes.
which is the same people who did the Shantae games.
So, it's cool that I can definitely tell your passion behind it because, like you said, it's this revamping of older games, right?
Yeah, it's like reimagining or like a spiritual sequel.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So, I mean, it's really cool to see this kind of because when was the original Shinobi game released?
Oh, that was like 1980 or 1990 something. It was very early because it was an arcade game, the
Right.
original Shinobi. And then we had the, what is it, Revenge of Shinobi on Sega Genesis, which was a
Okay.
big deal amongst people. Okay, not the same game. It's very different games in the way that they were done.
It's just really cool to see when it comes to the gaming world. Like you just hit it all on the head, man. You have games that were released in the arcade, and probably people that enjoyed arcades. I'm talking about like not today, but I'm talking about back then. We're probably that late '80s, mid '80s. Then you have the Genesis, like you said, come around.
The Genesis brought that arcade experience home.
There
That was
you
the
go.
big thing.
You bring it home, and that's and now you're getting this reimagining of it here in
Yeah,
2025.
that's happening with a lot of franchises now, especially with Sega, because we got Shinobi getting that. We got obviously Ninja Gaiden that's getting that. We're getting Virtual Fighter very soon that's getting that. I mean, there's a lot.
There is a ton to go through. I'm literally scrolling through everything with the state of play to refresh my memory. One thing that popped out to me here, excuse me, was the reveal of the trailer for the Five Nights at Freddy's, The Secret of the Mimic.
Yeah. Like for me, I'm very indifferent about Five Nights at Freddy's because I've
Okay.
never really been a big fan of the series. I know of it
Right.
because it's mega popular. I wasn't a fan of the movie. I thought the movie was terrible. But just in general, I respect that it's got such a reverence or resonance with a lot of people. It's just again, like there's only so much you could do with this same type of concept of like, possessed or weirded out, like horrifying like animatronics. It's just something about it is like, okay, I get it. Like I'm good. I don't need to see anymore.
It's with Five Nights at Freddy's when I started digging into it because we had that Five Nights at Freddy's Halloween thematic event here at the arcade a couple years ago. I think not this past year, but the year before that because the Five Nights at Freddy movie was coming out.
Yeah.
And it was really cool, at least in my take on it. It was really cool to see how just people express their passion for, I guess, the themes within the game. So you have the cosplay, you have the movie, you have books, you have so many different different parts of the Five Nights at Freddy's. So, I mean, I have to say I am a fan of the game. I like those types of games. But when I saw the Mimic, I was like, okay, this is interesting. How it's all going to come together, I'm kind of like a wait and see kind of thing. Especially, I believe, and I know this has nothing to do with the game, but I believe there's another movie to be released as well.
Oh yeah, they're getting a sequel. I heard about that. I'm like,
when was the sequel? You know what? Let me look that up. When was
the sequel? Some either at the end of this year or into next year because I know they've been filming it.
So
I know when they announced it, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe they're getting another movie.
I enjoyed the movie. I'll be honest, man.
I did. I was not a fan.
It was kind of cool. Five Nights at Freddy's 2, here we go, is the upcoming American supernatural horror film directed by Emma Tanami.
I think it's done by Blumhouse, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I don't. Release date is December 5th, 2025.
Okay, yeah, that's tentative. That's a tentative date. That could change, like for all we know. That because if you're gonna make a movie like that, you're gonna release a movie like that. Release it during Halloween, where it's relevant, or around that area, not during Christmas, of all times.
Well, I would say definitely, bro. Like it was really cool here at the arcade. Not to drive on Five Nights at Freddy's, but it was really cool here at the arcade to see everybody get into the movie because we're in an arcade. You know what I'm saying? We're in an arcade. It's kind of like nostalgic, and we're watching the movie and like the jump scares and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It was really cool, man. But to wrap things up with the state of play, because I know on our we got a number of things to cover here on episode 1. anything that like stuck out to you that you think people might have missed that were watching?
I might have missed. Well, I think those who watched it probably didn't miss much, but what I will say is a couple quick mentions that I'll give shout outs to.
Okay.
The remaster of Days Gone, which is starring Sam Witwer. If you don't know who Sam Witwer is, he's a pretty big actor, but he's also known for being Star Killer in Star Wars The Force Unleashed, who's a big, and also the voice of Darth Maul in Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah.
Well, and the Clone Wars, which is a pretty big deal for many people. But I'll give a shout out to that because I played the original Days Gone on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and they're getting a remastered version of it, which is tweaking some stuff. PlayStation tends to do that with some of their bigger games. There's even talk and been rumors for a long time that we might be getting a God of War remaster of the original God of War from PS2.
Really?
So that's a rumor. Take it with a giant grain of salt thing, but that's been floating around for a while that people thought was going to get announced at this state of play, and it didn't happen. Who knows? We might get something maybe during Summer Game Fest, but who cares at this point? We're talking about state of play.
Right.
The other one I will give a shout out to that I think is pretty dope is Monster Hunter Monster Hunter Wilds. Oh, I got to make sure I got them.
Yeah.
I think it's Monster Hunter Wilds, right?
Monster,
Yeah. So Monster Hunter Wilds, yeah, because it's the brand new Monster Hunter game that's coming out. It's also got a beta that it had recently. A lot of people love Monster Hunter. I played Monster Hunter plenty of times on many different platforms. Great series, fun to play with other people. It gets exciting, it gets hard, fighting the different monsters. But Monster Hunter Wilds is also bringing back some classic monsters they've had in previous games that are going to make an appearance in this one, which is going to be fun. So big shout out to that as well. And there was other games that were during the presentation. Like I said, there was a lot of them. But again, we need to see a little bit more gameplay. We need to see a little bit more stuff from them to get excited.
Now, you said something, and we're doing our best here at Press F to Start to break down terminology that we use as nerd speak. You use the word beta, Jake. So
Yeah.
let's say someone doesn't know what beta is or what it means. What do you mean by beta when you say beta?
It is basically a preview. It's like a pre-release version of the final game. Like it's not a finished version of it where people will participate in what's called an online beta. They'll play like certain multiplayer maps or certain types of gameplay related to a release before it actually comes out, and it's not in a finished state. So coming up soon tomorrow, which ties directly into another thing we could talk about, is the Elden Ring Night Rain network test, which is also called a beta. That's going to allow people to team up in co-op to fight whatever amount of monsters that they have in there, to check out and get a taste for what that game's going to be
and build excitement behind it, and
yeah, of
and
course,
of course the beta is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like the rough version. There may be glitches, there may be
Kinda.
issues with
It's
that.
more like a let's test how this is online with a
Okay.
bunch of people checking it out. That's what usually an online beta is for. It's just a pre-release version of a game that's not finished yet.
I know you've been a part of a lot of betas. You have one in this is not a beta, but I would say one of my most memorable videos that I watched recently was the one you did about the Stormship Troopers. Because
Starship Troopers.
Starship
That was
Troopers-
there. One of them. I don't remember if one of them was a beta, but I know I played the PC version of that.
Yeah,
Because
and
I
it was,
had a PC version and a console version I did recently, which was not good. Which was not fun.
it was so funny watching you play because like you built those shields up and like you like encapsulated yourself.
Yeah, and I'm like stuck.
Like,
It's like what the heck? And the game doesn't tell me like what I did wrong here, and then I just get demolished.
but I would say nonetheless, I would check out Starship Troopers. It looked like a lot of fun, dude. And it was a lot of fun to watch in general. And that's what games are really supposed to be, right? I mean, some games make you think, some things are just like point and shoot, and it was overwhelming the amount of bugs. But not to get distracted by Starship Troopers here. Let's pivot back let's pivot into exactly what we were talking about, the Elden Ring beta going down, right?
Yeah, Elden Ring Night Rain.
Night Rain beta going down, and Elden Ring. You've dug deep into that.
I've been very critical of Elden Ring and critical of the Souls Soulsborne games,
Yep.
the genre. So that includes Dark Souls, that includes Bloodborne, Elden Ring, Sekiro, Neo. Fun fact for anybody who doesn't know, I helped write some of the guides on IGN for Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin and also Neo, the DLC for it.
Really?
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I remember you telling me about. I remember you telling me about the guides that you had help write, and I could only imagine the amount of work and effort put into
Oh yeah,
each one of those.
it's not fun.
The
It is
amount of
not, especially with a
hours.
Dark Souls game. It is ridiculously annoying because you're not working on your time. You're working on the game's time, unfortunately. And anybody that's played a Soulsborne game like Dark Souls
Yeah.
2 knows how difficult things can get. Even for those that say like certain games are easier than others, these are hard games and they're hard meant to be frustrating. And it's not fun to write a guide for that. It's just insanely difficult.
If you want something to watch that's fun, I like to go to TikTok and watch those Elden Ring and Dark Souls sploof videos that people make about how
Yeah.
complicated and difficult those games are. You
Yeah,
know,
those games are not to me, they're not fun. Like I get they're popular, especially Elden Ring, when now that the closed beta is coming or the closed network test and the beta is coming very soon, which is this weekend from when we're recording this. It's gonna be going on for like 3 days. But you had to apply to it in order to get into it because they could only let so many players in to actually test out how this is gonna work. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do with it because this is like a multiplayer version or a much more multiplayer oriented version of what a Souls game could be like. And with Elden Ring, obviously, it was one of the biggest smashes last year. Yeah, last year or the year before. And it really resonated with a lot of people.
so what are you expecting going into this beta of Elden Ring? Night Rain.
I'm expecting very difficult monsters to deal with or fights to deal with, multiplayer stuff to team up with. Maybe I think it's like two other people, it's like a total of 3 players
Right.
going into some sort of like, challenge against a giant monster or giant Elden Ring sized boss.
Right.
There's also appearances in the game, apparently from older Souls games like Bloodborne or something that appear into this. But I don't know how much content is actually going to be in this closed network test. I'll find out tomorrow morning more than anything and over the weekend. And people will start to chatter about it as people start to get inside.
Yeah, it's just more of a sit back and wait. I'm really excited to see your Elden Ring Night Rain, I guess, reviews. When you go through a beta, you're allowed to give your opinion of what's happening and occurring and all that sort of stuff. This is not like
Yeah,
a
of course.
closed
Like I
book.
could do a video of it and stuff. Like there's certain betas that when you get allowed into them or you get accepted into them, they sometimes they say like, okay, you have to sign an NDA. You have to actually sign like an agreement not to talk about it and stuff. But with this one, no, I mean everybody's gonna be talking about this. It's that popular, but it's also open to everybody that got a chance to join. So you'll hear about it. You'll definitely see gameplay about it shared around on social media.
Now, guys, stay tuned for more information about Elden Ring Night Rain as Jake goes and dives deep into the beta over the next couple days and next weekend. Let's shift gears ever so slightly. One of the articles that was shared with me yesterday or today actually was why some fans are cheering the return of loot boxes in Overwatch 2.
Oh
And
God.
you had I don't know if you read the entirety of the article. I'm sure you did because you're really good at
Mhm.
that sort of stuff. But why are they cheering the return?
I would like to submit to the court that it's possibly because they're stupid or that they're very, very foolish. But the point is that this is a thing with Activision Blizzard that they think it's probably going to help revitalize Overwatch 2. Because in case anybody forgot, there's a little game called Marvel Rivals out right now that's actually really doing very good.
Yep, it
That's
is.
actually doing very,
It
very
is.
good. In the amount of time that it's been out, and I just don't think this is a good idea. Nobody really liked loot boxes. It was a very big controversial thing back when Overwatch first came out, and it affected other games as well. It started this whole trend with loot boxes that was very detrimental to a lot of different experiences. And maybe the Overwatch crowd that's still around probably likes that stuff, but that's not me. And I played Overwatch and Overwatch 2 for a very long time, and I'm telling you, this is not the move. It might be the move for money for Activision Blizzard, but it is not the move for players and it's not the move for me.
What do you think outside of hey, we want more attention is Blizzard thinking by doing this?
That they'll get more interest in the game. I mean, besides,
Really,
that's
you
really
think
the
that's
biggest thing is attention.
the underlaying thought from Blizzard? Hey, we're just going to get more eyes on us.
Just more concurrent players, just more players being active as much of, if not more, than Marvel Rivals. The problem is though, is that with the different business models that both Overwatch and Marvel Rival has, they're very, very different because Marvel Rivals is a free-to-play game
Right.
that gives you all the characters to play with.
Yep.
Like you only really pay for the cosmetics, which is a huge deal for a lot of people that came from Overwatch. Overwatch doesn't do that. You have to pay for either the full game or you have to pay by the character, or you have to go through the free rotations of the free characters they allow you to play, plus pay for the cosmetics, plus pay for the loot boxes. that you get or the crates that you get at times. You know, a lot of people just weren't feeling that. I don't foresee a lot of Marvel Rivals players dropping that in favor of what is it, Overwatch, because of this. It's just a very, very bad choice.
Man, I gotta set the. For those of you watching,
Lights.
sorry, yeah, the lights went off because of the sensor. But regardless,
Even the lights don't like loot boxes. You see what I'm saying?
like
Like
the
they're
lights
even
shut off.
upset about
They're
this.
they're like, we're done. We're shutting down. We're done.
We're shutting down Overwatch 2 because these loot boxes. It's over.
I agree wholeheartedly with Marvel Rivals going down. And, you know, I always gauge a popularity of a game based on how often I hear it talked about, how many people keep asking about it, the age range of that game. I mean, I have here at the arcade, like kids talking about that game. And I have
Marvel Rivals.
Marvel Rivals. And, dude, at the arcade, obviously, you know, bro, we have consoles and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And we do not want people downloading games to those consoles because there's only so much storage. Do you know how many times we've had to delete Marvel Rivals from?
Like that game is popular. It's very popular right now for many reasons.
I'm okay. I'm totally cool with it being on like 1 or 2 consoles. Not all of them, you know. It's like
that's like 50 gigabytes right there on every single console. Like,
exactly.
And then everybody's got to put their own profile, their own outfits. It's like, come on now.
And then you guys all know people log into their accounts. Just a PSA. If you are in a public space and you log in to your own account,
don't log into your account there.
Log out. Like just
log out.
Like the amount of phone calls I have received from parents being like, "Hey, yeah, my son was at Flynn's arcade like for a birthday party a couple weeks ago, and we just got charged this money on our credit card for all these items that were bought. Could you do something about it?" I'm like, wait a second. Like,
what do you want me to do?
I told him not to log in.
Wow.
But anyways, I agree. It's going to be interesting to see what Overwatch 2 does, how it kind of like, what's it thinking here and its logic here. It's something that kind of like on the back burner. Now, something to jump to the front burner also that we want to cover is the Twisted Metal Season 2 official trailer being released.
It's officially happening.
For Season 2. Obviously, we just said that. Here we go. And
Yeah,
this
on
was
Amazon
just released, I believe, yesterday, right? Right, Jake?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe it came out yesterday because it was recent.
It was
like that. It's just basically it's all over the place now. Anthony Mackie's coming back in his role. Everybody from the first season is coming back with more characters because now this season is going to be based on the Twisted Metal tournament from the games, which is the thing that everybody said from the first season that wasn't really alluded to till the very end. It's like if you remember when the new Mortal Kombat movie came out and everybody complained about how it didn't have the Mortal Kombat tournament in it. Now the sequel's coming out soon, and we're going to get the Mortal Kombat tournament in Mortal Kombat 2. So same thing here. Season 2 is going to be the actual Twisted Metal tournament with Calypso, with all your favorite riders. Sweet Tooth is back. Like that, it's going down.
Now, what were your thoughts on Season 1? For those of you listening, if you haven't checked out Season 1, we'll try to keep it spoiler-free as possible. I mean, it is out there, so if you wanted to watch it, I assume you would have watched it by now. But what was your favorite part about Season 1 for Twisted Metal, Jake?
I really liked Anthony Mackie in the role of John Doe. I was pleasantly surprised with him. I was also pleasantly surprised that when they actually did the car combat, when they finally got to the action sequences and the gruesome nature of how some of those things can be, it was actually really good. And Anthony Mackie, his personality as an actor, I think is fun in certain scenes. They went with a much more humorous approach for this season like that, or at least this approach to the IP, which I thought worked. Because the games aren't always like that. Like there's definitely some dark humor in them, but they're much more like darker than you would expect and much more gruesome. And this one, they did have some of those elements, but it was a little bit more like dark humor where there's a humor element to it. And it works because Anthony Mackie, his actual, presence on screen, the way that he acts with other characters, plays off with them, I thought was good. And then the car combat, the action, when they're actually doing stuff, it actually worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the Twisted Metal Season 2 come out, and it's really cool to see this franchise continue to grow. I still remember, well, Jake, what was the first Twisted Metal game that you remember playing?
The first one I played itself was probably Twisted Metal 3. I want to say on PlayStation 1, because I've played all the Twisted Metal games, like in various times over the years. I haven't really played through all of them fully, but I played all of them over the years, and I would say like some of the standout ones, obviously Twisted Metal 3, Twisted Metal Black, Twisted Metal Reboot, the reboot game that came out on PlayStation 3, which is a big thing. That was the last one I think that David Jaffe had worked on before he moved on to other things, because that's his baby. He created Twisted Metal, he created God of War, etc. for with his own studio. But yeah, those were the standouts for me, and I like how this series, again, it wasn't a great season one, but it was still good enough to get this season two. And this season two sounds like it's going to be really good.
Oh, totally. I agree 100%. It was definitely entertaining, especially I picked up in the Twisted Metal world right when it was released. The hours and hours spent on the first one PlayStation, just, my sister and I going at it over and over and over and over again. And I just always thought it was a ton of fun. So season two, guys, if you're excited to see it, I guess we're anticipating. We're waiting to basically see it, and we're super stoked about that.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you never know, one of our podcasts might be just reviewing episodes. Like what we
Yeah,
thought
I'm down.
about
Like I watch all this stuff when they release them. I'm there.
like what we talked about. Yeah, no, I know you were at the theater today, but we're
Yeah.
not going to get to that because that's not really on task right now. But let's just say, I'm sure Jake's going to come out with some thoughts about the new.
I already got a review out before you even release it. Boom, it's already out on TikTok.
There you go. All
You
right.
even know I reviewed Captain America: Brave New World, so
There you go.
it's out now, and I got pictures of me in the theater seeing the movie, and it's all out there for you guys if you want to go check it out. If you want to know if the movie's good or not, because by the way, for the record, a lot of harsh reviews about this movie.
Yeah, that's what well, we're not going to go off on it. Maybe we'll cover it next episode, give everybody a chance to, watch it, see it, and we can dig deep into it. I myself, I want to see it in theaters for, just once that thematic experience. And I'm excited to see it. You're not the only person I've spoken to today that has seen it, but enough is enough with that particular topic. But let's move on here to, we've already mentioned them before, but we're getting two, like I'm reading the review here about Kotaku about these two gorgeous ninja side scrollers in the same year. They're getting two of them, and we've already talked about both of them. One of them being The Art of Vengeance, the other one Ninja Gaiden, Ragebound. Which one, Jake, are you most excited about, bro?
Probably Ninja Gaiden if I had to choose, because I'm
choose.
definitely want to play both. If I had to choose, I would say Ninja Gaiden, but I definitely want to play both. And that's only because I saw Ninja Gaiden first. That was the first one that got announced.
Right.
And then now we got Shinobi, which is Art of Vengeance, which they both look beautiful. They look awesome. If you're a classic Ninja Gaiden NES fan, this is right up your alley. Same thing if you love Shinobi. And then keep in mind, this has been a year of ninjas, so far, because we just got Ninja Gaiden 2 Black that I played and reviewed on TikTok. It's awesome. There's a lot of good stuff happening for the people that love those series.
Well, the side scrollers, I've always been a huge fan of them because, in the arcade, a lot of side scrolling games. My one that, excuse me, that I've been digging into myself on the PSP, and I always mess up the freaking name, and I apologize for that. And Jake, you have done reviews on it. Is it Ghosts and Goblins?
Oh, yeah, it's Ghouls. It's Ultimate Ghosts and Goblins on the PSP.
There you go.
But they also have a newer one on the Switch,
Right.
which is called Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection.
I just enjoy the side scrollers. Those games, I think you did a couple reviews on those games, didn't you?
Well, yeah, specifically Ghouls and Ghosts on the Sega Genesis. That's the big one for me.
And whenever I play it on the arcade game here at the arcade, it's always, I don't know, man. It's I call it a quarter muncher. You know what I'm saying? It just swallows quarters up because of how quickly you die, and how quickly. Oh, it's gonna get so frustrating. But these side-scrolling games are just, I don't know. There's just some a purity to it. So I agree 100% with Ninja Gaiden. It's gonna be really cool to see it come out. And honestly, I've been thinking more and more about converting some of these more modern renditions of these side-scrolling games to arcade games again, and building custom arcade games specifically for it to experience it in that manner.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really, really, really cool. Speaking of side-scrolling games, what is your favorite side-scrolling game? I've never asked you that question.
I don't know if I have one because I've played so many over the years. It's very hard to choose the best of a genre that, again, when you played so many of them for so long, because again, I've been gaming my whole life. So a lot of these games and franchises that I've experienced over the years, I was there since their genesis, since their beginning. It was literally either playing on the Genesis or playing for the NES or the Super Nintendo or etc. So if I could give you a top five, give you top 5 right now. So we're talking side-scrolling action games, right?
Right.
Okay, so I would say Sonic 3.
Okay.
It's probably my favorite one. That's one.
Okay.
I would say The Messenger, if you've ever played The
Never
Messenger on
played the
Nintendo Switch,
Messenger.
PlayStation.
I've never
If
played that
you
one.
if you love Ninja Gaiden or if you love Shinobi, especially Ninja Gaiden,
Right.
that's literally a game that's very similar to it, but done with a modern sensibility
Huh.
that I think is really dope. Okay, I would say The Messenger. I would also say Freedom Planet. If you're into Sonic the Hedgehog, it's an indie game called Freedom Planet that has a beautiful presentation and awesome soundtrack that's very inspired by Sonic the Hedgehog, especially Sonic CD, that I think is pretty cool. I would also say Dust and Elysian Tale, which is like a Metroidvania but a side-scrolling
Right.
action game in its own right. That's also an indie game. That's one of the most beautiful indie games I've ever played. That's awesome. And then finally, if I had to throw in one more in there just for kicks, I would probably say Super Star Wars, because Super Star Wars is one of those action games that's classic, but it's also very tough. Like the entire trilogy of Super Star Wars games, Super Star Wars, Super Empire Strikes Back, Super Return of the Jedi, those games are tough, but like there's a certain like charm to them that's a little bit different besides other tough games of the era.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. A lot of times with the side-scrolling games, at least from my experience, the ones I've played are like unforgiving. Once
Yeah,
again.
and by the way, there's other games that are like that I have not mentioned that are classic, like Castlevania.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, come on, like
That's
there's like 4 Castlevania games I could just name off the top of my head. Like it's just crazy because there's so many. It's what's crazy about it.
Do you think that with the side-scrolling games when they were being developed, we're talking about like OG, right? Were they,
It was on NES
yeah, were or even NES or
or Atari.
Atari, when they're looking at side-scrolling games, they're like saying, okay, we have the character moving left, right, up and down, right, diagonal. How can we make this complicated? How can we?
Well, well, I think it's just a formula that worked for so long because a lot of the side-scrolling action games really started with both the original arcade games back in the like I want to say early to mid '80s.
Right.
You could probably even go maybe a little bit further back, but when you started getting to the home console stuff, when you started getting Atari 2600 and a lot of those primitive games like Pitfall or anything else that was very similar to that, those eventually evolved into what we got, which I think is the apex of that platform or that traditional platform, which is Super Mario Brothers. That's what made that mainstream, and that's what jump started so many other platformers on all consoles from that point forward because other companies went to copy that success.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, if it ain't broke, why fix it?
Exactly.
Just mirror it and see what happens with it, and find these different, just different elements to introduce to our client base, or customers.
Of course, yeah.
So we've covered a lot of topics here on episode 1. We're super stoked that we, have, man, we covered quite a bit, but I want to end with this, Jake, before we sign off. With everything going on with the gaming world currently, is there anything that we haven't covered that's maybe upcoming within the next week or so that people should be paying attention to, or maybe want to check out, or hey, this is kind of cool, you might want to look into it if gaming is your thing? Anything at all on your radar?
Right now, I think that the biggest thing that people are just waiting on because it's going to be happening on April 2nd
Okay.
is going to be the Nintendo Switch Direct, the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, which we just had a direct slash presentation reveal for the Nintendo Switch 2, which was a big deal, like
Yeah,
not
yeah.
even a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
So this is going to be the first time we get to hear and see more details about it because we've seen the console now. We know it's official. We know it's a real thing. We possibly are getting a Mario Kart game that's coming with it that was in that video. The next Direct, which is April 2nd, which is going to be devoted to the Nintendo Switch 2, we might actually see games running on this thing. Like legit games are going to be coming out at the launch of this. So we might get a new Mario Kart. We might see more Metroid Prime 4 that might have the dual release between the original Switch and Nintendo Switch 2.
Yeah.
We might see other games like Zelda. There's a real possibility that we might get a brand new Mario 3D game. Like there's real conversations that are happening about this thing because this is brand new Nintendo hardware. This is a brand new Nintendo console, and a lot of people care about that, for many different reasons. But the specifics is what's really going to speak volumes to from that presentation to what we eventually see in the summer for Summer Game Fest. Because Summer Game Fest, remember, there's no E3 anymore.
Yep.
E3, for anybody that doesn't know, is Electronic Gaming Expo. That's done. That's not happening anymore. And it got replaced by the show called Summer Game Fest, hosted by Jeff Keighley. That's where all the big companies, including Nintendo, are going to showcase their stuff more than likely. So once we know the console and once we see the new Nintendo Switch console in its entirety, we get details. Now show us the games of what we're going to play during launch window.
Well, you guys heard it here first. Definitely want to check that out. And, with everything in the video game world, here at Flynn's, I've been really trying to work on releasing new arcade games. And just an update on our side, guys, is we are trying to bring in as many different arcade games as possible. And I'm not going to say too much, but definitely, Jake, with some of the new games coming out on the Nintendo Switch and all that kind of stuff, I really want to see. My vision here is to bring a rebirth, something totally different, basically taking the Nintendo Switch games and putting them into an arcade cabinet and beginning to kind of create these new, I don't know, like experiences. And I'm super stoked to see what's going to go down with Nintendo with the new Switch.
Mhm.
And do you think, just a thought popped in my mind, Jake, with the new Switch being released, do you think that it's going to be, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's going to be like a massive improvement? Do you think it's going to really radically change things? What are your vibes
Well,
with
we
it?
already know that it's going to be an improvement over the original Switch because the power and the guts that are inside the Nintendo Switch 2, like the parts that, everything that's put together, it's being built like a Steam Deck,
Yep.
almost very similar to it, like a Steam Deck or a ROG Ally, these other mobile devices that bring like a home console experience to a portable, setting that takes it with you on the go. So you could actually play it wherever you want. But what makes the Switch unique and the Switch 2 is that it has the hybrid where you could play it both on home, connected to a dock on your TV, and then take it with you on the go. Like that, with the Switch 2 being more powerful than the original Switch, you're going to get better games, and especially more bigger, better games from third parties that are going to be on this console. So a lot of talk has been going around about with the specs of the Nintendo Switch 2, are we going to see Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth on this thing? Are we going to see Street Fighter 6? Are we going to see The Witcher 4? Are we going to see Cyberpunk, on this thing? Are we going to see GTA 6? GTA 6 comes out next year. Imagine that on the Switch 2. That's a real conversation that people are having. Like people are saying, like, oh, that's sacrilegious because you're going to play it either on a PlayStation 5, your PC, or your Xbox Series X. But Nintendo might be entering the conversation with that. Like that's not a small thing to snub at. Being able to have that type of experience where these other consoles can't replicate that. So then now that shifts the environment a little bit for console makers or the big consoles like Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo of how they compete and stuff for our money, as consumers, as gamers out here. So it's going to be interesting because we're going to see how powerful this console is and what it exactly could do and see what exactly could actually be possible with it.
Yeah, totally, man. Well, I think that's a perfect place to end it, especially with the upcoming Nintendo news. Guys, if you're around this weekend, remember Flynn's is open the entire weekend here in Margate, Florida. But Jake and I will be at Animate Miami in Miami, Florida at the Miami Airport Convention Center, aka the MAC.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow and on Saturday throughout the weekend. If you see us, by all means, stop and say hello. I always have goodies inside my pockets. About Flynn's, so you never know what I might be carrying around, so you might want to ask about that. And then, of course,
Yeah.
love to snap a photo with you. If you have any questions or ideas for the podcast or things you'd like to see covered, hit us up. Let us know what's going on.
Yeah, just come say hi.
Come
We're
and
going
say
to be
hi.
roaming around there.
With Animate Miami being this weekend, it kind of starts off for Flynn's the plethora of different conventions coming down the pipe, especially stepping into March. We have Sunrise Comic Con. We have PalmCon in April. Then I want to say there's something in May. Then we have a
And
Taco
then
Fest.
July is SuperCon,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we have a Taco Fest in June. Then we have in July we have a Florida SuperCon. Now there's something potentially we're working on with August. So it's going to be a fun summer, fall. It's so crazy because we're already planning stuff out till like August. So, excuse me, I'm really excited to see where that
Yeah.
leads. And yeah, as I always say, just find those opportunities to have some fun, disconnect from reality a little bit, jump into a game or two, and find something that you enjoy. And of course, here at Flynn's Arcade and more in Margate, Florida, you're more than welcome to come by anytime you'd like. It's $15 unlimited play. Come and go as you please. Once again, you can find Flynn's at Flynn's Gaming FL on Instagram. And Jake, remind the people again, where can they find you on Instagram or social media?
You could find me everywhere at Jake James Lugo, all one word at Jake James Lugo on places like Twitter or X, as well as also on YouTube, as well as also on TikTok, on Instagram, on Threads, on Blue Sky, on Facebook, all over the place. I'm at Jake James Lugo, constantly posting up brand new videos and brand new content about games, movies, TV, pop culture, Star Wars, and everything else that we love to talk about on here. So there's a lot of content on there. I highly encourage you guys to go check it out. I posted up new videos on TikTok literally every day. There was new videos earlier, like I said, today, including my review of Captain America Brave New Worlds, as well as also some other Star Wars related stuff that you guys will definitely want to check out. But go see all that stuff and let me know if you enjoy it.
Totally, guys. And once again, if you have a moment, swing on over to the Uncensored Nerds Network on Instagram. Check out the latest, greatest podcasts within that network, which we are super proud to be a part of. Comic Con podcast, Comic Con podcast. We got issues, Plot Hole Pro, and Beyond the Cape. I want to say them right and clearly because you guys can go check out whatever your fancy is, whether or not you're into video games and that sort of topic that we're talking about here, or if you're into comic books and all that culture as well, which I myself are deeply into. Once again, it's all about supporting each other. So here at Press F to Start, we're super thankful for you guys checking out episode 1 of our podcast, all about gaming news, the latest, greatest, and more. And we can't wait to see you on our next episode podcast. I guess, what would they be? Episode 2, right? So,
like, dude, Attack of the Clones. We did the Phantom Menace. We're here. We're the Phantom Menace. Now here comes the Attack of the Clones.
So we got Phantom Menace, and now Attack of the Clones. So we're super stoked to see you on episode 2, guys. Hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Whatever you're doing, do it awesomely. I believe in you. We believe in you. You can do so much more than you could possibly imagine. If I could start the arcade, you can do anything you put your mind to. So, all right, guys, this is the Bearded One signing off, and my co-host,
Jake James Lugo. Take it easy, everybody.
Well, hope you guys have an amazing day, and may we all live long and prosper. Until next time, we'll catch you on the flip side.
Later.